The manga starts and we get an introduction to our main protagonist, who is not actually a human. Tatari is a cat that you would likely see on every corner of the streets. Although he knows himself that he is a stray cat, he made sure to never go outside his boundaries and was never full of himself. He has no family, no friends, and he is very unsocial, so much so that he would prefer not having any friends. As our cute little cat glances to his side, two siblings call out to him. As Takeru calls out to Tatari, he has a big, bright smile all over his face, and his sister Yuki is sitting there as well. He perfectly lands near them and helps us introduce his human friends. The boy is known as Takeru, and his sister Yuki are both his regular fellows that he likes to visit. As he lands, Yuki immediately changes and begins to tremble from excitement and is ready to grab onto him and pat him over and over again. He senses the danger and like every cat dodges danger, he runs over to Takeru and sits with him. As Yuki goes crazy, she asks just why Tatari prefers him over her, and he replies by telling her that maybe it is because he has known him for a long time. Now both of them knew each other for a long time. They first met each other way back 7 years ago. As he makes a grumpy expression, he couldn't help but remember it. That day all he saw was his own blood. That day Takeru saved him from a hungry stray dog that attacked him and was ready to just kill him. As they both met for the first time, they glared at each other, and in the next second, he grabbed the wounded cat and ran away from the dog. Takeru swiftly made his way over a tall fence, which made it easier for them to run away from the dog. As he embraced him that day, he was sure that he could have beaten 10 of those dogs or even 100, but he failed just because he was so hungry that he couldn't move properly. As the helpless cat realized that a human had him wrapped around his arm, he bites Takeru, and he lets go of him. As he flops and creates distance between them, he gives Takeru a deadly glare and reminds him that he can't touch him. He looks at this weird cat who was not thankful at all, and he searches his bag for a second, and in the next instant, he brings out a soft and delicious bread. As he placed it near him, all the anger and defensiveness of the cat disappeared, and it wondered if he was offering this to him. Takeru leaves the bread right there, and he questions just why a poor nobody would hand his food to someone else, let alone an animal. He looks at his clothes and gets up and is sure that he is not treated nicely wherever he goes, and as Tatari calms down, he realized that there is no use in fighting him, and him could be similar. That night, he traced Takeru down, and when he saw his place, he lived in a broken and shabby apartment that was not repaired or looked after for years and years. It was clear that it could collapse any time if the wind was strong enough, and his living condition was just as bad as the building. Inside, piles and piles of dishes emitted a hideous smell, and the place he lived in was almost undesirably dirty. As he sat near a corner, he was not sleeping, and from the side, he heard Tatari's gentle voice. He slides the door and sees a piece of bread for him. He glances to his top and saw a cat back with some piece of the bread, and as he lets out a cute meow, for the first time in his life, Takeru was sure that he has found something very special. The next day, he was getting bullied pretty hard, and the kids were taking their sweet time, kicking and pushing him with everything they had. As they laughed at him, Tatari actually gave them all a visit as well and scraped their ugly faces one by one. As they cried and ran away, he stood there like a general, and Takeru brings out a bread one more time, and this time they both shared it with each other. This was the time where they both realized that they are perhaps going to be much closer than ever. And as they sat while eating their same old boring bread, they had the best time of their lives. Things began to drastically change for him, and when he turned 15, he had a sister. Now the father of his sister was someone else as well, and ironically, both never saw the face of their fathers. Takeru's mother was not your average mother, but rather she was an animalistic woman who loved being embraced by men and was a free-spirited soul who wanted nothing to tie her down. And for people like these, children are nothing but a burden and weight that they want to push on someone else. As they got older, they knew that they can never look at her and expect anything, but after he realized this, his mother was already dead. She dies without any struggle, and some illness did the trick. As he saw the rotten corpse of his mother, he never shed a single tear for her, but was more focused on the task that he had to take care of. At age 15, he was shouldered with the responsibility of raising a sister. Although his life was truly tragic, his sister was not blessed with mercy. Unfortunately, she ended up coughing blood one day at a park, and soon after that, she was diagnosed with a serious illness, and a few of her organs would not last until her adulthood. And since their fathers were different, poor Yuki could never accept her brother's organs as her replacement. And if they had to decide for an organ transplant, they would have to pay an unimaginable amount of money for the replacement of her several organs. Now Takeru never slowed down after this. He began to work despite his young age and every night worked like a dog. While children at his age were sleeping and enjoying their lives and childhood, he was wielding a hammer in the cold night at some construction site and earning below average just to scrape by with his sister. Despite his misery, never in his life did Takeru complain. That poor boy's soul was innocent, and every fiber of his being was fine with everything that they did. From outside, their place was completely run down, but from the inside, things were not any different, but the light in them was still shining brighter than anything. As cute Yuki exclaimed about how she wants to pat the cat, he replies and lets her know that Tatari is a gentle cat and hates when Yuki touches him all over the place. As he says this, Yuki begins to tear up, and smart fellow obviously knew what he needed to do. He jumps across and lands on Yuki. Tatari cries out how, despite having nothing, Takaru still has a satisfied expression over his face, and somehow this always made him happy for them. As he smiles himself, we learn the painful truth of life. Soon after this encounter, Takeru was murdered in cold blood. That day, he found him lying all helpless, and liters of blood had already left his body. As his friend Tatari looked at his cold body, he froze and couldn't believe the things he was seeing. There was a precise cut around his neck, and the killer took his time to do so and end him. He was also found at a random construction site that no one knew existed. As he looks at his best friend, he questions just who could be so cruel to a broken human, and in the first place, he was not a person to cause any problems. As he processes this loss, memories flow inside his mind, and he remembers an important talk between the two of them. One day he was patting Tatari and telling him about how his life is going to be not so great, and he has already wasted a few very important years of his life. He adds that he could only support one person with everything he has, and that would be his sister. He tells him that he would make sure to drag his sister outside the circle of poverty and misery. With a firm voice, he tells Tatari that he would cure his sister no matter what. As he remembers his smiling face and his talk of wonders, Tatari questions him what the things that would happen to his sister if she finds out that she is all alone in this harsh world. He asks if she would patiently wait for death as well. As he asks him this, he lowers his head down and in the next instant he drinks Takeru's blood and Tatari's body changes into Takaru. He took over his body, or to say it in basic terms, he duplicated his body and replaced him. Now Tatari was obviously not a normal cat who could be considered as a pet. Rather, he was a monster that could suck onto the blood of humans and transform into them. Over 1,000 years ago, he transformed into a human and was feared throughout the country as the great yokai of the underground. But he was so out of control that calculated steps were taken to ensure the survival of humans. He was sealed for a long time. After 1,000 years, he used a lot of energy to break free from his seal. But when he did so, his supernatural powers were almost non-existent. That was the time when he encountered a hungry stray dog who almost killed him. And just as he accepted his fate, Takaru showed up to his aid. As we travel back to the present, he closes the open and lifeless eyes of Takaru and questions, "Who could have killed you?" As he questions this, a new stage of life will begin for Tatari. After a few hours, a man's eyes widen to see someone sitting near the couch and he reminds himself that something is surely wrong. Immediately, he begins to question how he is still alive. Tatari as Takaru replies to him saying how his scent was all over the place and he simply followed it. And as he says this, he shares how he lives in a rather wonderful place. 1 bedroom and 14 tatami mats. There is also a separate toilet and bath. Not only that, every single thing a human needs is there and with a slight luxury touch. As he states this, in the next second, Takra goes into beast mode and asks why a trash like him is living in a comfortable place like this. The assassin knew that he was exposed and quickly drew his knife that he hid near his ankle. And just as he drew it, 3 sharp sword-like figures went through his hand and slashed him like butter. The slash was so quick that for a minute, it was not really visible what he did. But as his finger detaches from his hand, Takaru's hand extends super sharp nails and the assassin cries out from the pain. As he glares at him with his terrifying aura, he points his weapon right near his throat. And with a chilling tone, he asks just why he killed an innocent boy who was already holding on a thin thread of hope. The things that he explains can justify the beginning and the end of this task. The assassin was hired from Hong Kong and there was a boss of a mafia group that almost controlled the entire underground. But ever since he passed away, everything is out of control and there was a bloodbath going on. The boss of the mafia had a special will in which he wanted to distribute all his wealth across his remaining children. And among the lists, Takaru was one of the children to inherit a big amount of money. Takaru's mother didn't know about his father's identity. And when he came to Japan for a break, he met his mother and they both had Takaru. Now as he died, he passed all of his assets to his children. And somehow he knew about Takaru and this caused his demise in the end. In the effort to increase their share of inheritance, his so-called siblings were the ones to attack him and kill him. Takuru asks if there are any other assassins other than him and he replies by telling him that there was only one and they were sure that Takur would never give the assassin a hard time. He asks if he has already reported the client of his death and he tells him that he did that right after he cut Takur's throat. He gives him a small notebook and with a cold voice he tells him, to write down all the information about his client over on this paper, and without any words he begins to do so. As he did whatever he asked him to do, the assassin begins to beg him not to kill him and adds about his family condition and other useless chatter. As he wailed like a broken man, he grabs the knife nearby and was about to attack him. But Takaru in the next second cuts him so precisely that blood spurted from the cut and he drops down like a fly. He lets him know that even if he has family, the person he killed had one as well. And he starts to spew how the innocent boy he killed had an ill sister and did all sorts of things to make her happy. As rage boiled inside Tatari, he tells him about the true person and the gem of a human Takaru was, and he ended up dying because of a battle that he never even knew about. He tells him in a cold voice that he would not take his blood or do anything else at this moment as he walks off and tells him to die a lonely death that he deserves. Later, poor Yuki was becoming restless and asked if their beloved cat would finally show up. She asked her brother if he would show up or not, and Takuro was already back. But Yuki obviously had no idea that her brother died and Tatari has transformed into her brother. Now, on the other hand, he had no words and kept wondering about the mafia and assassination things that Takura has been dragged into. And as he chopped, he was sure that money and wealth is useless to a cat and it is like handing a gold bar to an animal. He reflects that even though he doesn't need money or anything like that, Yuki would definitely need the huge inheritance of Takuru's father. This would also help her cure the disease and would ensure a bright future ahead of her. He tells his best friend Takuru that he would surely not let his wish go down in the dust. With a determined and devilish voice, he reminds himself that he would snatch all his inheritance from anyone who is claiming it theirs. He adds that there are no other humans that he cares about other than Yuki and Takaru. As he was going berserk mode, Yuki lands a strong kick to his back and stomps the floor and yells at him for ignoring his beautiful sister. As he apologized, he began to explain to her something that would break her heart. As they finished their food, he shares with her how Tatari had passed away and how a car swooped him away and took his life as well. Now he made all of this up. He covered one lie to hide another. As her poor eyes widened to hear this, she began to hit him over and over again. And as he hugged his sister, he shares that in this harsh world, Taku has been living and doing his best to survive. He comforts him and tells his friend that he would take care of the rest and would let him rest for a while. As these vows were to change everything, he embraces his sister and mutters to her that they are not lonely. And as he says this, Tatari was already attached to her and would surely not let any harm come to her. The cat that they cherished more than anything was about to become their salvation. In a distant place, a bar in Hong Kong was emitting bright lights. And inside, various food dishes were presented in front of a man. As he ate, he made sure to empty everything in front of him. And as he asks for an update, this piece of trash was the person who ordered the assassin to kill Takaru. He questions if there is solid proof of the kill. And one more person smiles at him, reassuring him that all the other children would surely die. As he bites into a cracker, this piece of trash was another garbage who was killing innocent children to increase the size of his inheritance. The big boss of some sort wipes his face and mocks how his father was a stupid man who wrote in his will to distribute all the money among his children who carried his blood. He laughs and mutters how a child from an affair surely doesn't deserve a single penny of the treasure. As we see the face of the man, he reminds him that without money, network or backing, they are all useless and would just be a hindrance for him. He adds that his military power is more than enough to handle the empire of his father. As the person in front of him emits his power, half of the table turns into ice and the main boss, who is planning on taking everything for himself, adds that he would slice all his 7 siblings and take control of the inheritance that his father left. Now, this person's plan was to kill all of them and become the sole leader of the underworld. As he instructs something to the monster who was glaring at a mobile, he notices something and mutters that if they ended up stepping on the tail of someone's animal, they would surely have to suffer consequences for that. After a few days, the school bell went off. And as all the students went to their classes, the teacher standing near the main gate yells at a student and tells him to fix his uniform. As he says this, the student just keeps going. And later we see that Takur was walking with a slightly arched posture and his teacher was yelling at him to walk properly. As his clothes and shoes were all untidy and dirty, the teacher's calls kept getting annoying, and as he calls out his name, he stops and glances back at his teacher. Takura now has an evil look to him and it seemed like there was a lot going on inside him, but his eyes were dead cold. Now Tatari has become the replacement of the late Takaru. This is the safest way he has decided to take, and in this way Takaru would be able to protect his sister as well. Now his main goal is also to not be found out by anyone, and if this were to happen all hell will break loose. However, just as he says this, someone interrupts him and just above him a crow mocks him for trying too hard to blend in. A crow with weird eyes asks him if he is cosplaying or something. And the 3-headed crow go crazy. As they interfered in his life, he shakes them off and moves on. But his main goal of blending into society failed as fast as it started. Tatari realizes that this is harder than he had thought. And with a pissed expression, he glares at the stupid bird and he runs off. He can't keep up his persona whatsoever. In between moments, he changes colors and lets his real face show up. And this would expose him and Takaru. As he reminds himself not to mess it up, he reflects on how to portray his best friend's personality to the maximum extent. And since he spent years and years with him, he reminds himself that it may not be that difficult to do so. Now, as this was going on inside his head, he finally hears his teacher's voice. And as he checks up on his teacher, he starts to educate him on the proper dress code and posture. After the hellishly boring lecture, he goes to his class, but for a minute, he forgot it. He finally finds it. He opens the door and sure enough, he finds his seat faster than anything. All over his seat were markings, and it was clearly visible that Takaru was being bullied. As he sits down, he was sure that this is the reason Takaru was always silent about his school life. Just as he comes in contact with the chair from the back, a trash throws his shoe at him. He glances back to see some piece of trash mocking him for not greeting them. These were the people who made his life hell. And Takura never revealed this to anyone. His school life was also hell. With a pissed expression, he rejects them and spews that they should take their half-ass attitude somewhere else. Now as he says this, the whole class hears this and even the bullies go into shock mode. With confidence, he gets up and approaches them asking who they are. And as always, the ego of the bully snaps and he grabs his collar like it was his own. With a cold voice, he reminds Takura that he surely must have forgotten the hell they gave him back in middle school. As he leans on him, in the next second, his pants drop in front of the whole class. As he glances down, Tatari used his sharp nails to do the trick. And as he processes this, he kicks the bully right in the stomach and he falls down. All that fake manly attitude disappeared once the whole class saw his teddy bear underwear. And with a threatening look, he laughs at his choice of underwear. And as he was about to attack from the side, the teacher finally shows up and they stop right there. Even though he was embarrassed, the bully on the other hand was boiling with anger and the whole lecture he was just imagining all sorts of combinations and techniques to use on him once the school was over. As his friends asks if he is okay and if Takaru is acting weird or something, he glances at his friend and tells him that he is surely trying to act cool in front of the school. His anger was reaching its peak and as the teacher spewed his last words for the day, the class was just about to end and their teacher tells them to find the mobile classroom. As the students left, he also made his way outside and since he had no idea where it was, his best course of action was to just follow the others. As a hand approaches him from the back, he spins around and was sure that the bullies are here to fight him or something. But a student was standing there with a slight smile. He asks who he was and he replies by telling him that he sits right next to him. Kawano tells him in a happy voice that whatever he did to the bullies earlier was the best and it made him respect him more. Now, as Tadari processes this, he knew that he should do a happy face and he does that. As they both chatted, Takuru asks if there is something else that he can help him out with. And while brushing his head, he tells him that whatever he is about to tell him is coming from his heart. He tells him that he found him creepy from the start. As he lets out a questioning phrase, Kawano explains to him that every day in school he would get bullied and surprisingly he would always smile at him and get back up over and over again. As Tadari became angry, he shared that seeing Takura fight back after so long, Kawano adds that he realized that Takura was a kind person and didn't want to hurt anyone. As he hears this, he goes silent and he keeps on spewing the great things that he would do and would always find a solution in the most difficult time and would also endure rather than attack. As he says all of this, in the next second, Takura grabs his hand and begins to smile at him. He exclaims and tells him how he was a great person indeed. After saying these easy-to-understand things, he begins to listen to the dozens and dozens of details about him. So much so that he shakes him and reminds him that he is Takaru in the first place. And why would he need to tell great things about himself? As he stood, they both made their way to the mobile class. Inside the mobile class, all the students gathered and made certain groups and Takaru, on the other hand, was roaming around. In the break time, he did a whole tour of the place and made notes to help him with the overall structure. Now his main goal was also to investigate Takuru's regular life and he wants to do that by first going through the place. As he made his way into the classroom, the bullies were just waiting for him there. As he questions this, the whole class's atmosphere was grim and they walked towards him and he was about to land a punch on him, but Taker easily dodges him using his cat instincts. He decided to throw more shots at him, but every single one of them failed. He yells at him like an idiot and tells him to not dodge the attack. And he states the obvious by telling him that no one in their right mind wants to get punched. He tells him that he has committed a crime and should be punished. He points to the girl in their bully group and tells him that he stole her wallet. Now he was making false accusations and with a calm voice, he lets her know that he doesn't even care about her. He screams at the top of his lungs and tells him that he found her wallet from his desk and surely he was doing this for money. As he asks the entire class, they knew that he didn't do anything but still decided to stay mute because they knew that all hell would break loose if they were to snitch. He casually lets out a big yawn and from the side someone raises his hand and Kawano stands there and tells the bully to stop his useless drama and bullying that is just dumb. As he scratches his head, he lets him know that he speaks for the whole class and tells him that putting a wallet into someone's desk is an old trick that bullies use and it is so common that it is popular in manga and comics. He mocks him for being a manga fan and tells him that everyone in the class doesn't want to associate with him, but it doesn't mean that they enjoy being near you or agree with the things you do. He tells that trash in a cold voice that everyone in the class knows that Takura would never steal anything. Now he stood up for Takura for the first time. And when he did, Tatari couldn't believe that his friend had a partner like him in school. Now the witch on the other hand started to cry and thick crocodile tears fell from her face and she started to act like a victim of such great pain. And the bully finally grabs onto Kawano's shirt and passes him an evil glare and spews to him that since he made his girlfriend cry, he needs to pay. It seemed like the friend who stood for Taku was about to become a victim of the bully as well. But just as he was about to hit him, the teacher walks in on him and he asks what the bully is doing. He replies and tells him that Takaro had stolen a wallet of a classmate and has been lying. As the teacher took a pause for a minute, he clicks his tongue and tells him that poor people are just trash. He tells the entire class that since he stole, he should return it and face the consequences. As the stupid and trash teacher says this, it was obvious that he was just the lowest of the low and Takaru starts to message something. As the bully became even more angry, in the next second, notification sounds went throughout the class, and it seemed like Takura had shared something with the whole classroom. As they checked what it was a video of the bully devising a weak plan to sneak the wallet of his friend inside his desk and then to stage a performance in front of the class. As his dialogue and expression made it clear that he planned everything, he went speechless. And Tatari mocks the idiotic mindset of lowlife wannabe gangsters. He reminds them that a cat's ears are not just accessories, but they are the most vital things for survival and finding prey. Earlier, when they were spewing all about this, he heard them from above and realized that their attention was different. As he made up an excuse, he left Kawano. And as he waved to him, in the next second, he used his superhuman strength to grab onto the wall. And there we see that Takura hung outside the building carefully, saw everything from their blind spot. It was so easy for him that while recording, he couldn't stop smiling at them. Now, since the whole class saw the video, they learn more about his trashy attitude and personality. And he questions just how he was able to record them. But Takuru asks his trash teacher about this matter. And as cold sweat runs down his ugly face, he tells the 4 bullies to visit him after school. After school ended, like all bullies, they stopped him from going back home and tell Takaru to give him some of his precious time. As he pops some of his joints, in the next instant, he tells them to never ever approach the territory of an animal. Takaru easily won the fight. And as the 3 pieces of trash lay there all bloody, it was clear that they didn't even have the chance to fight back. As they all huffed for air, all of them were crying for their mamas. And the girl on the other hand begins to mutter about how this is all just not real. He passes her a cold stare and he gets up telling her that he wanted to resolve this in a normal manner but they wasted so much of his time. He questioned if it is fine to eat him and as her world just changed he began to transform his hand and approach them with evil intention. He reminded them that he can surely clean up everything and no one on God's good green earth would know about their corpses. As he made his way closer, the 3-headed crow from earlier reflects on how a monster is always a monster. And as he made his way closer to her, she on the other hand leaned right next to the fence. Now, Taku was not stopping and it seemed like he was really here to end them. And the girl tells him to back off or she would do something unexplainable and he would begin to suffer the consequences. She screams at him and lets him know that someone like her would rather die than to be bullied by a poor garbage like him. And just as she says this, the fence easily broke. As all of them stopped for a minute, that dumb girl didn't check the warning sign near the fence. And it stated that the fence was poorly maintained and could break any time. As she fell, she questioned if she is really about to fall. And as she stretched her hand out, with a weak voice, she begs him to help her. And with a cold voice, he lets her know that there is no way he would help someone like her. He smiled, realizing that the witness that he had would surely die unexpectedly. And now he would just cover up the whole scene by devouring them whole. As he spins around, he was happy to kill the people who oppressed his best friend. But when he sees something unexpected, he stops for a minute and an after image of Takaru stops him from becoming an actual monster. Immediately, he realizes something and in a fraction of a second, he rushes to the girl and grabs onto her. And with a deadly voice, he warns her not to open her trash eyes. As she does what he tells her to do, just below them, Kawano was messaging Takaru. And just to his side, Tatari lands with a loud thud and air pressure so high that it shakes everything. As Kaohanu tries to process this, just over his head, the fence also was about to fall. Tatari finally realizes that even though there are people who oppress you, when the time comes and someone is dying, you must save him no matter what. As Kawano freezes to see a huge fence about to fall on his face, Tatari mutters the name of a technique. And in the next second, he brings out his long sharp claws and cuts the whole fence in half immediately. As the pieces of the fence fall and land near the nearby people, everyone panicked and their Kawano and the bully were lying down together and no one had any idea of the actual thing. The next day, a large group of people smiled at someone and as Kawano became the great hero who saved a girl. Everyone in the class praised his bold move. As he smirks at them, Takuro was happy to realize that yesterday's event was peacefully resolved. Now, strange rumors began to spread around the school about the girl's real intentions. But this would surely teach her a lesson. As he kept his cat nature intact when wanted to wander around the school, he leaves with smiles and lets Kawano handling everything. Now, Taku was caught by the sports teacher one more time. And this time as well, he tells him to walk properly and instructs him to do a 100 reps of a back exercise. Later in the series, both Takaru and Yuki were surprised by a strange guest and finally all hell breaks loose.